They're safety glasses, by the way. Something that like your grandpa would wear in the 70s. Dremel. Smell of a new drill. I like it. I've actually partnered with Dremel and they have sent me their new product line Blueprint to review. They may have given me some stuff for this review, like the tools and these sweet glasses. So first, let's get to the drill. This is the multi-drill by Dremel Blueprint, but clearly on the outside of the box first, it shows a large photo of it. It has other components of the laser level that's inside, as well as a stud finder. They've included bits and just very brief descriptions on what everything is. On this little tab, you'll see it's all about DIY differently. They are catering to the everyday DIYer. It's not someone that's hardcore, you know, general contractor that you see building houses or anything. Those people are going to have more of the DeWalt, the Makitas, the Milwaukee type of tools, and they're gonna be kind of set in their ways and they have their preferences. So as we crack it open, instruction manual, you have the actual drill itself. We'll get to that in a minute, but opening this box, you have the charger. This is a 12 volt. That's great to see. Something about the Dremel Blueprint product line is also that all of the products or all these tools, they have the same 12 volt battery, so it's interchangeable. Also, there's the laser level. It just slides open. It's like a charging cord inside of this, and then the actual level itself. Now the actual drill. Interesting. You know, to be honest, oh, and there's bits in here. Sweet. Some bits, paper, more paper, warranty, instruction manual, and reusable laser putty. I'm sure this is gonna come in handy. Set all this stuff off to the side, but you have the actual drill, you have the battery charger, you have these reusable putty, laser putty things, USB charger for your laser level. You have your actual battery for the drill, and then some drill bits. Pretty nice, inclusive. Everything that you think you could need, it's gonna be here. We're gonna slip this in here. Okay, holding this, it seems pretty substantial. I have large hands. My glove size is, I think, an XL. All right, put the putty off to the side. We'll use that later. The laser level. That goes just right in here. It goes kind of an upside down, and there's little grooves here that you'll see, and you just kind of slip it in. But you gotta make sure it goes high enough. That goes in there, so it's a nice little storage compartment. There's also these little storage containers here on both sides. Now the stud finder is gonna be interesting. I'm excited to use that. There's this arrow to where it indicates where the edge of the stud is as you need to keep scanning and move, and then where you it's essentially like a pause or a calibrate. So you put up against the wall, you give it time to calibrate, and then you can move it up against the wall. Something that's pretty typical is the torque setting on the top here. You'll see it starts with a 1 and it goes all the way to a 21. I'll give you a view there. The higher it is, it's gonna give more power in it. Let's just try to put in a bit here. P2, slip it in. Oh, okay. So something that's interesting is that bit that I just put in. So this is called the chuck. Often a lot of drills is you pull it out to then, or like you pull it out, put in the bit, and then let go. This is actually a little bit, it's kind of backwards. You pull in the chuck to then let the bit go, but something interesting is you take the bit and you just slip it in and it's already in there. That's not a normal behavior for a lot of other drills. So it's more of a, you push in the chuck to release your bit and then change it out. You don't have to hold it in to put in a new bit. If you do a half squeeze on it, the light kicks on. So that's really nice. Seems to be relatively bright. And there's about a half-second delay before it actually starts when you squeeze it. But then obviously you'll have your arrows on the side here for what way the drill is going. If the arrow is going towards or away from the drill, like into the wall that you're doing, that means it's tightening it. It's gonna be fastening it. If you do it to the other side, it go towards the drill, it means you're gonna be taking out the screw. We'll put it in practice, and then here are the drill bits that you get. You have your various Phillips, you have a flathead, you have some Torx, you have some Allen wrench fittings, and then some different drill bit sizes. So a couple couple things I want to highlight here with this drill. It's meant to be a 3-in-1 drill. So when they say 3-in-1, what that means is the actual drill itself. That's number one. Number two is a stud finder. You'll see here that there's this little button that you press in. It's kind of raised here, essentially the button to start allowing your stud finder to work. But that's number two, and then number three is the actual laser level. So you just kind of push it out. One thing that is kind of a bummer with this, it is a USB-C only charge. It would be really cool if they were able to figure out when you put it in that it would be charged with this battery. You have this little hole here, that is the actual laser. Let's see if I can go on the wall. Two little sections here where you can put that putty that they give in the box for you. So you put that putty and then you can put it on a wall and then level it out. This is something that'll be good for like curtain rods, shower rods, frames, shelving, TVs, etc. So it's essentially just kind of like a one-stop shop for everything that you need. One thing that would be nice to see from Dremel is if they were able to put a slot here on the left or right. I want to be able to hook it on my pants. Charging time, I noticed with this rechargeable battery, it is about an hour from completely empty to full. So this is off to the side. The next tool. So this is the Dremel Blueprint portable saw station. Some highlighted features here. This looks like a miter in a box. This is almost like if you took a circular saw and a miter saw and they had a baby, this would be it, plus the storage. It talks about doing miter, rip, bevels. So we'll do all those cuts, flip it around, highlights the product in itself, highlights all of the accessories that come with it, and then various cuts. It explains what you can do here. I'm not gonna read through all of it just because I just wanna get right into it. The box itself, hard plastic. So as you open this, I just lifted it by the handle. Awesome, cool, little template. Set that out to the side. Oh. So on the back of this, tour of the tool, it says down here at the very bottom, material that this saw should be used for. Essentially it's just like wood and maybe some plastics. Great. Looks like here's the saw itself, okay. Pretty substantial. I feel like that it feels a little bit more quality than it looks, so that's nice. 45, the 0 degree measuring here as you're cutting. All this is brushless. You have a depth indicator on the back here, so if you loosen this, what this does is allows you to take the saw, go up and down a little bit with it depending on how deep or shallow you do want to cut. And then also if you take this guy right here, loosen this up, this is where you're going to get your different angles. Let's unpack this a little bit more. So I'm gonna set this off to the side. Your charging station, to open this up, you just pull on it. Inside here, this is for some bevel cuts, I believe. There's 2 of them. Perfect. Probably same thing here. Some instruction manual, make sure to read that. Important stuff. The battery, we have a little nozzle, probably for dust, and I think it is for dust. Provides some clamps. All this is very well thought out as far as how these plastic molds will be able to fit everything into this case. So I think Dremel did a really, really good job at that. So clamps, we'll make sure we clamp our wood pieces down as we're cutting those, and then looks like this is a guide. So it looks like here's a little sawhorse or a longer board that you do need to cut. This will help or support up to 20 pounds. This is that guide. Okay. That's actually kind of cool. So if I wanted to freehand it, so I could take this, I could tighten this down. There's no battery in here. So I could use this as a guide to get some really straight cuts for ripping. The name that I know of Dremel is like rotary tools. They're kind of stepping into this realm of the DIYer, you know, crafts, carving stuff and etching stuff out, and then the general contractor, they're kind of finding that happy medium where they want to be able to cater to those people who want to be able to handle a saw, or maybe going to like a big box store is overwhelming for them because they see all these power tools and there's so many different options and they don't know what to get. This is essentially Dremel trying to figure out a way to cater to those people, and I feel like without using it first, we'll demonstrate that in a second, without using it first, I feel like that they're doing doing a pretty good job. This is a 3 3/8 saw blade, the little safety here, and then you have your little release. When you use this, you actually have to push this down to release it, and then you can pull the trigger. If you don't, you won't be able to use a saw. I'm not gonna be careless now. You can kind of see here that laser. So it aligns with the little numbers here, the 0 and the 45. As far as like the actual portable box here, insert saw, so there's a very easy way that you can just like take this guide here, put a piece of metal into the groove, and the other one just kind of sits on top. You slip it in, and then this one just kind of sits on top. It slides pretty well. So one thing is you're not actually able to adjust this guide or these rails. I believe you can cut like a 1x4 is a pretty typical measurement for like trim and stuff. If you want to cut anything thicker than that 1 inch, you're going to want to take this off and use this guide. This is the other one that you're going to want to use, like a 2x4, right? It looks like this is the thickness of a 2x4 that you can hug and you can make appropriate cuts. So you have slots here on the actual portable station that you can slip this in, and your clamps can go into, right? So they only give you 2 clamps and there's 3 slots, so they give you a little bit of freedom. Also here you can loosen this up, and this is where you can get your angled cuts. But there's a little bit of a groove at 45 and 0 both ways. It just kind of like sets in place, or like trim pieces, enhancement to furniture, maybe little things of not quite like your heavy duty shelving, but you could do maybe some smaller shelving, some thinner stuff. As far as this and actual making the cuts, I feel like that this is pretty inclusive. So I'm gonna put everything back and see how it goes. You just kind of open that up. You don't want to break this. You can't store it and close the saw on it. Put it away fully. You need to make sure that you fold it. So there's this little section here that this kind of it gives when you're closing it, making sure that everything is fastened down, whatever side you're gonna do. So if you're putting the drill down this way, when you pick it up, make sure that there's tension on it and you're moving, because if you just like move it kind of, it won't close all the way. Pick it up and then move the center so it then closes. So that's that tool. Now we're gonna test out the tools. It has some screws. If one bit works, the rest are gonna work probably just fine. Make sure it's to righty-tighty, go full throttle. Ooh. Back it out. Now I'm actually gonna twist it all the way to number 1. You can see this isn't moving. Now let's do a drill bit to just drill some holes in the wood. 1/8 bit on the Torx adjustment. There's a little drill head. Use that. Pick a spot and go. Back it out. Honestly, if I were to have this be like a go-to drill in my house, I would honestly probably just keep the setting at 21 all the time. Now we're gonna test out the stud finder. Behind me there's a wall. What I'm going to do is actually mark already where the studs are with a other stud finder that I have, and then see how accurate this stud finder is compared to that one. Push the button to calibrate. And there's a little arrow here. So I'm just gonna mark here, and so this says there's a stud right here. Take the stud or the drill, push that button. You can see that blinking light. Now it says move. I can go this way, I can go this way. But as I move, I should start. Oh, okay. So you gotta keep this baby flat. There's not a ton of surface that you can wiggle from. So right when that red arrow lights up, you can mark it where that arrow is. So there's that. So this was the mark with the multi-drill, and this was a mark with a stud finder. So the stud finder on the multi-drill, its margins were a lot smaller from the margins to the actual stud finder. So all that to say, does the stud finder work? Absolutely. It almost gives you a higher percentage that you're going to hit a stud rather than using a traditional stud finder. So now I'm going to use the laser level. Slip that out, take the putty that they gave you, so you just put it on there. I'm not necessarily gonna hang anything, but this is where I just marked for the studs, so I'm just gonna put it right there and just kind of push a little bit and then turn that on. And because you're playing with putty, you can actually adjust it a little bit, which is nice. Adjust, I'm just gonna really get it in there. Depending on how much of your laser you can see, it actually will depend on how flat your wall is. So if you're only able to see like this much of your laser or the whole thing of your laser, it's not the laser's fault, it's the wall's fault. But now I know I can take a shelf, something here, and I can, make some marks and then start fastening to do a vertical piece. I would actually probably recommend taking off the putty. Beautiful thing about putty is you just take it off and stick it back on. There's no residue on it also, so that's kind of nice. But if you want to do a vertical, slap it on there purposely, not have it level, and then kind of adjust, and you're good to go. And now for the portable saw station. So I'm gonna do all 4 cuts. Let's start with a straight cut. I have a clamp here this way, and then I have a clamp this way. So I do that so the board doesn't move around. I'm just gonna take this piece of trim that I have. Board measures 3.5 by 1/2 inch. I'm gonna take this, slip it in, take the battery, turn on the laser. Pretty good, pretty clean. Now, let's do a miter. Loosen this up. Let's do 30 degrees. Move that out. It's pretty straight. So then you can take this and you can go really anyway. So it's getting pretty dusty. So that's one thing about the station is you'll need to make sure that you vacuum it up. We'll do a bevel cut and change this angle position back to a 0. Tighten that down. Now bevel is where you change the angle on the blade. I'm gonna take out the battery, loosen up this guy, and that then changes the angle. Here, I'm just gonna do a 30. I tighten it up, and this is a 3 3/8 blade. Okay, I want you to remember that. Slip it back in. Take the battery. 30-degree bevel right now. Let's go. Did great. You can see the angle. If you go beyond a 30, this is what happens. 45, trigger down. And take the battery out. It didn't cut it all the way. So because of the depth of this portable saw station, how little the blade is with what little angle that they give you on here, you can only go so far. These risers come in handy. Slip it in there, it kind of locks into place, which is nice. And then on the other side, same thing. And it essentially just elevated this cut. Keep in mind that you only have 1 inch to play with here as far as how thick of a piece of wood you can put under here. If your piece of wood is thin enough to be able to have this bevel riser underneath it to support to cut all the way through, go for it. And then finish off the cut. It's actually kind of nice. To be honest, I was actually really confused on how these little risers would work, but they make so much sense now, I'm able to use it. So we did a straight, we did a miter, we did a bevel. Now I'm gonna rip. Okay, let's set this back to 0. Take out the battery. You get this guard, but there's a 0 right here, and that little notch, there's like a ruler on this metal bar. Once you have that certain measurement down, you'll take this and then you're just gonna tighten this down. Actually, the rest of these cuts that I'm gonna do, the rip and the 2x4, doesn't necessarily need a portable station anymore. Put that up against it and go. Just for the sake of space, I'm not gonna keep going. And you can also just freehand it if you want. Okay, so that was the original thickness of the board, but I cut it the long way, called a rip cut, and that's what happens. So now that I've demonstrated those 4 cuts, the rip, the bevel, the miter, and the straight, there's one more thing that I want to showcase, and that is cutting a 2x4 with a 3 3/8 blade. So in the unboxing, there was this little product here. Looks like a little clamp, and it fits the size of a 2x4. This is pretty ingenious on Dremel's end, so let me show you how it works. Take your clamp and go, just kind of hug it, and the back goes right underneath that, and it kind of just snaps in. So now it's held in place. And then you're going to hug it over the 2x4. The edge of your saw here actually uses the edge of this as a guide. So you can put it up next to this and cut. You may notice that there's those little like flare outs here. This actually measures a certain distance, and I'll put that distance in the description or in this video. So when it cuts, the blade isn't going to cut that tab at all. The blade actually clears it just barely. It's not down all the way. Make sure you tighten this. Butt it up against that, push down the safety, I'm gonna cut. The blade barely missed that little tab, and it didn't cut all the way through. So then what you have to do is you have to flip this over and cut on the other side. The reason why this is clamped down is you don't move this guide. So whatever measurement you have, you go off of where this little thing is touching. That's where the blade is going to cut. But this is actually really cool of Dremel to think about this. For the idea of having a compact workstation, having a saw that does miter, bevel, straight, rip, and cuts 2x4s, this is pretty ingenious. So I'm gonna clean up, put all this stuff away, and give you my final thoughts. We'll start with the portable workstation. Do I recommend this? Absolutely. If you're in a tight space and you don't have a lot of tools to go out and buy a sawhorse or storage and put everything and get individual tools for various types of projects, and you're not that type of person to collect tools, this is a very viable, handy, smart solution for you. Dremel did a really good job at creating this tool that is a centralized location for the beginning DIYer. They were able to think of all of the cuts, the miter, the bevel, the rip, and even just the straight cut, helping you accomplish probably most of the projects around the house that you need. One downside is this 2x4 cutter. It did nick the measurement just a little bit, but because it nicked it this time, it won't next time. It can be kind of time consuming to make one cut, flip it over, make the cut again, unclamp it, and kind of go back and forth. This guide is helpful if you need to make a handful of cuts. It's versatile and really highlights how awesome this saw really is. Now for the drill. Is this a good entry drill for this type of space and doing your own DIY projects? Absolutely. You don't have to worry about going out and getting a laser level, a stud finder, because those things are included with this drill. Dremel did a really good job at making sure that the multi-drill was designed in such a way for the beginning DIYer where they're able to have 3 tools in one. The stud finder, you have the drill, you have an easy chuck release, and you have the laser level. All the things which you could probably complete most of the jobs around your house with this specific tool. This is a great choice and a great solution for many of you out there watching this. But some nice to have features, maybe in the version 2 of this type of drill, is a hook for like your pants or putting on a ladder. The stud finder to actually make a noise when it finds a stud. That's actually really convenient. And then also one little minor thing is putting a little magnet strip on the bubble laser level. That would help immensely if you're up there hanging a curtain rod and you just take your level and you pop it out and you just slap it on the rod and it just kind of dangles and hangs. That'll make your job so much easier and more convenient. Dremel, thank you so much for watching and checking out these tools. Hopefully, if you're interested in these tools, I'll put links where you can find these down below in the description. And a huge thank you to Dremel for allowing me to have a hands-on experience with the Dremel Blueprint product line. Looking forward to what comes out next. Thanks for watching.